We DM 10 of the founders who pitched on Shark Tank India's Season 2 to see how they're doing today. And the trajectory that these 10 companies have taken since the season varies wildly from startup to startup. But to give you a brief overview of the season, 166 startups pitched on Season 2 and 115 of them received commitments from the Sharks, but not all of these 115 got funded. See, it sometimes takes months for the due diligence process to be completed, and during that time, either party has the right to back out of the deals committed on the show, and that actually happens quite a lot. Now, we don't have the exact data for how many of these commitments were actually honored, but going by the numbers from the previous season of Shark Tank India, we can expect the completion rate to be anywhere between 40 and 70%. But if one of the founders that we talked to from Season 2 is to be believed, then only about 15% of Season 2 deals have actually materialized at this point. And so with that out of the way, let's get started and talk about the first company on this list, which is a Hyderabad-based EV startup called Gearhead Motors. Founded by Nikhil, Gunda, and Meher Sai in 2018, Gearhead Motors started their journey by converting petrol and diesel cars into electric cars. But as soon as they got started, they realized that this was actually pretty capital intensive, and also customers weren't actually that interested in getting their cars converted into electric cars. So they decided to pivot to making electric bicycles instead, and in doing so developed their own technology. And so by the time they pitched on Shark Tank India Season 2, they actually had two companies. One was Gearhead Motors, which was making the electric bicycles, and the other was GHM Labs, which was developing the technology used to make these electric bicycles. Now, on their episode of Shark Tank India Season 2, they did manage to cut a deal with Aman, Gupta, and Peyush Bansal, but it was based on the condition that they would have to merge these two companies, and that's exactly what they did. And their long-term goal was to build and sell their indigenously made electric bicycles, and even sell their technology to other OEMs to make EVs. But as it turns out, when we reached out to Nikhil Gunda, he said that the deal that was agreed upon on the show was actually changed later on, and it took the Sharks 13 months after the show was shot to complete due diligence. On top of that, there wasn't really any commitment from the Sharks when it came to mentorship, and so Nikhil thought it would be better just to drop the deal and continuing to go solo, and that decision seems to have worked well for them. At the time of the airing of the episode, the revenue for FY22 was 3 crore rupees, but they're expecting to close this financial year, FY24, at 32 crore rupees. That's a massive 10x revenue growth, and today they've managed to license their technology to companies like TATA, and are also exporting their products to countries like the Maldives, Mauritius, and Bangladesh. Now, like I mentioned earlier, one of the reasons why Gearhead Motors decided to walk away from the deal was because of the absence of mentorship, which is something that early stage startups like the ones on Shark Tank India Season 2 really need, but probably don't usually get because the Sharks are just angels investing in their own personal capacity. They don't always have the bandwidth to have close relationships with the startups that they're investing in, and that's where well-established professional VC firms become a much better option. Jungle Ventures is one such VC firm. They have a program called Cheque where they offer one-on-one mentorship to founders rather than working within a cohort-based framework the way that most VC firms like Axel Adams or Surge operate. Cheque is specifically intended for founders who are in the early stages of their startup, so they might be in the ideation, pre-seed, or seed stage of their business, and Jungle Ventures will come in and literally write the first check as a founding investor. And if this sounds interesting to you, if you're an early stage founder or you're just in the ideation stage of your business, then you should definitely check this program out, and I'll be putting a link to it in the description and also in the pinned comment. Jungle Ventures has been supporting India's startup ecosystem for years now, and they've been a key investor in companies like Book My Show, LiveSpace, and Adamberg, just to name a few. They're ready to invest at the idea stage of a startup, but they're also committed to investing across multiple rounds to form committed partnerships all the way until the IPO. And the best part is that they're actually really well known for working directly with founders to deliver sustainable and scalable business growth. So if you want to learn more about Jungle Ventures and what they can offer you and your business, then check out the link in the description and also in the pinned comment down below. All right, so next up on this list, we have a Noida-based hyperlocal OTT platform called Stage. Founded by Vinay Singhal, Parveen Singhal, and Shashank Vaishnav in 2019, Stage is basically building Netflix but for Indian language content, and specifically specifically focusing on the Haryana and Rajasthan markets. And that in and of itself is pretty cool, but what makes this startup even more unique is its story, because the founders had previously built a viral content Facebook page called WittyFeed, which saw monthly traffic of 12 crore people and yearly revenue of 40 crore rupees. But all of this turned to zero when Facebook decided to delist their Facebook page after the Cambridge Analytica scandal in 2018. And so that's when the founders of WittyFeed turned to their employees to fund them to build something new from scratch. Without knowing what it would be, 54 of their employees became angel investors and Stage was born. Now, the sharks on Shark Tank India Season 2 were obviously impressed by this story and how resourceful the founders of this company were, and so Stage did manage to cut a deal with Aman Gupta, Namita Thapar, and Peyush Bansal on that season. However, according to Shashank Vaishnav, while the deal was eventually closed, Peyush Bansal decided to opt out of it. But it looks like he might end up regretting that decision, because at the time of the airing of the episode, Stage had about 1.3 lakh subscribers on their OTT platform, and they were bringing in revenue of 3.85 crore rupees for FY22. But today, they have more than 8 lakh subscribers, and based on some rough calculations, we can say that they're probably making in revenue about 4 crore rupees a month. Alright, moving on to the next company in this list, we have a Delhi-based organic fragrance startup called Nirmalaya. Founded by Bharat Bansal, Surbhi Bansal, and Rajeevv Bansal in 2020, Nirmalaya makes charcoal-free incense sticks out of recycled flowers that are collected from temples. Now, this company was one of the startups that actually failed to get any deals from the sharks, and Bharat Bansal told us that they had already raised $800,000 before coming on Shark Tank India Season 2 and weren't really looking for an investment anyways. They were more interested in mentorship, and even though they failed to get either of these things, funding or mentorship, what they did get was the right marketing. The day their episode aired, their sales grew by almost 5x, and they continued to grow by 3x even 6 to 8 months since the episode was aired. Shark Tank India gave them the push that they needed to be successful. And so even without the support of the sharks, Bharat and his team are continuing to do what they do best, build their startup. At the time of the airing of their Shark Tank India episode, their ARR, that's their annual revenue run rate, was 6 crore rupees, but now they've managed to double this to 12 crore rupees. Alright, moving on to the next company in this list, we have a New Delhi-based hiring platform called Unstop. Founded by Ankit Agarwal in 2017, Unstop offers a full-stack engagement to hiring platform where companies pay them to conduct hackathons and competitions to hire quality talent. Now, when Ankit went on Shark Tank India Season 2, Unstop had 35 lakh users on their platform, and more than 200 companies were using it to hire these students. Thanks to these numbers, Ankit managed to get a commitment from 4 sharks for 2 crore rupees for 4% equity in his company, and he took the deal on the show. But before the deal could close, Unstop got an offer from other investors that he couldn't refuse. These new investors offered him $5 million at a $25 million valuation, which was 10x what was being offered to him on Shark Tank India. And not surprisingly, Ankit decided to take this new offer and drop the Shark Tank India deal, and this was a win-win for Unstop. They got plenty of marketing from Shark Tank India to grow their business, and that airtime even helped them to get a better deal from other investors. In fact, the company claims that the traffic on their website has jumped 20x since the show aired, and just look at their sales team calendar to see how companies are lining up to tie up with them. Now, Unstop did decline to share their current revenue figures, but the company was doing 16 crore rupees in revenue in FY22, and they were projecting 30 to 35 crore rupees in revenue for FY23. Today, they have already doubled the number of users and customers on their platform, and so it wouldn't be a stretch to assume that their revenues might have doubled too. Alright, next up on this list, we have a Gurugram-based oral care brand called Perfora. Founded by Jatan Bawa and Tushar Khurana in 2021, Perfora makes toxin-free oral care products like toothpaste and even electric toothbrushes, which they sell through their own website and also other online marketplaces. Now, on Shark Tank India Season 2, while they did ask for 80 lakh rupees in exchange for 1% equity, they ended up accepting commitments from 3 of the sharks for 80 lakh rupees in exchange for 2.5% equity. It took them 10 months to close the final deal from the day that they pitched, but before the final deal was closed, Peyush Bansal backed out for his own personal reasons, and the founders of this company don't actually know what those reasons were, but this deal has been well worth it for the other 2 sharks and the founders. See, when the episode aired, Perfora had about 1 lakh customers, but since then that number has increased to over 6 lakh customers. And while Jatan Bawa didn't share their revenue details with us, he did say that their revenue has grown 4x and that they're on track to do 100 crore rupees in ARR this calendar year, 2024. He also claims that they're the fastest growing oral care brand in India, and they've even raised more capital to achieve their ambitious target of building Colgate 2.0 from India. Alright, moving on to the next company in this list, we have a New Delhi-based kombucha brand called Atmosphere Kombucha. So it was while studying in the United States that Rebecca Sood was first introduced to kombucha, but when she came back to India, she realized that there really weren't a lot of kombucha brands in the country. So it was at that point that she decided to team up with her sister, Ariella Blank, who was already at this point brewing her own kombucha at home in India and giving it to her friends who wanted to improve their own gut health. And in 2018, they started Atmosphere Kombucha together. Then, after building their brand for 4 years, they went on Shark Tank India to raise money for their manufacturing facility, which would have helped them to scale their business, but unfortunately, they didn't feel that the deal that was offered to them was fair. However, despite failing to cut a deal with the Sharks, the sisters managed to double their D2C sales when their Shark Tank India episode aired. And while they still haven't raised the capital that they were planning on raising, the exposure that they've gotten from Shark Tank India has definitely helped them to connect with a lot more investors. Also, if you're interested in knowing more about these two sisters' story and how they managed to grow their business in India using Jugaad, then you might want to check out the podcast that I did with them some time ago, back in 2019 actually, and you can check that out in the top right corner of your screen. Okay, up next we have a Ghaziabad-based company called Raasa Karts, and it was founded by Manik Seghal in 2022. So Raasa Karts wants to organize the entire street food vendor industry, which generates close to 3.5 lakh crore rupees in revenue every single year. But how are they planning on doing this? Well, by providing them with a one-stop platform, helping them to get an FSSAI license, onboarding them onto Swiggy and Zomato, and even helping them to procure vegetables at their doorstep. The idea here is to provide them with pretty much everything that they need to focus and grow their business, while Raasa Karts takes care of all the other stuff behind the scenes. And when Manik pitched this grand idea to the Sharks on season 2, everybody thought that it was a noble cause, but none of them thought that it was possible, except Anupam Mittal. But when the show aired and Manik managed to finally reach out to Anupam, the first thing that he told him, according to Manik, was that your business will not work, and the deal was never closed. Nevertheless, thanks to the exposure from Shark Tank India, Raasa Karts has managed to raise funds from some US-based angel investors, along with the government of India, and now they're actually incubated into IIM Lucknow. And according to Manik, they're now planning on launching their own food delivery platform specifically for their food cart vendors. Alright, moving on to the next company in this list, we have a Gurugram-based cloud kitchen food brand called MOPP Foods. So the journey for this startup began when Geetika Gupta couldn't find a single hygienic brand that was selling authentic parathas and pakoras that she liked, and so in 2019, she started her own brand called Mad Over Parathas and Pakoras, or MOPP Foods, and started selling them online through her own cloud kitchen. She was later joined by her husband Gaurav Gupta in 2020, and by the time they went on Shark Tank India, they had 3 brands operating from 3 different cloud kitchens, selling 22,000 orders every single month and making ARR, that's annual revenue run rate, of 6.5 crore rupees. The duo managed to get Amit Jain on board as an investor, and according to Geetika, the deal was closed smoothly in just 6 months, and today they've added 2 more cloud kitchens, a 4th brand, and their monthly orders have gone up to 36,000. All of this is reflected in their ARR, which is almost doubled to 12 crore rupees since the deal was signed in 2023. In fact, MOPP Foods is already in the middle of raising their pre-Series A round of 8 crore rupees at a valuation of 45 crore rupees, which is 3x what they got on Shark Tank India. Alright, up next we have a Ghaziabad-based adventure safety gadgets maker, Kyari Innovations. Founded by brother-sister duo Abhay Sharma and Smratika Sharma in 2017, Kyari Innovations is making innovative tech-enabled safety products for wildlife and outdoors enthusiasts, like their flagship smart stick Guardian, which comes with LED lights, an alarm system, and can even give an electric shock to wild animals which you might encounter to scare them off. When they came on Shark Tank India, they had sold 1.4 crore rupees worth of their products through B2B and B2G channels in FY22. And the duo did manage to get commitments from Anupam Mittal and Peyush Bansal, but as of the time of us filming this video, they are yet to hear back from those teams and the deal is yet to be closed. That being said though, their Shark Tank India experience was still very valuable for them because it opened up a lot of opportunities and markets that they hadn't really considered exploring. Since their smart stick was priced steeply starting at 10,000 rupees, they didn't really think that there would be an opportunity in the consumer market, especially in India, but to their surprise, there actually was quite a bit of demand after the show aired, and today more than 15% of their sales are coming from their B2C segment. On top of that, they've even managed to establish international distribution and are now selling their products across regions like the United States, Canada, Africa, and New Zealand. And now finally we have a Surat-based drone startup called insideFPV. insideFPV started as a college project when 3 VIT students, Arth Chaudhary, Devyant Bharadwaj, and Oshi Kumari, who were building customized drones for their college, decided to turn their hobby into a business in 2020. And when they went on Shark Tank India to pitch their startup, insideFPV was already selling drones worth 5 to 6 lakh rupees every month on average directly to customers through their own website. Impressed by their vision and hustle, 4 out of the 5 sharks committed to investing in insideFPV. However, it took the sharks a long time to finish due diligence, and by the time it was done, insideFPV had actually built on their technology and filed multiple patents. And so they believed that the deal that they were getting, the original deal that they had signed up for, didn't represent their true potential, and so they decided not to take it. Since then, they've managed to double their average monthly revenue from 5 to 6 lakh rupees to 10 to 12 lakh rupees, and today, apart from making consumer drones, they're also selling multi-purpose agricultural drones and even sold kamikaze drones for the Indian defense industry. Oh, and refusing that Shark Tank India deal didn't really actually have much of an impact on them, as they managed to raise $491,000 at a $3 million valuation, which was 5x higher than what they got on Shark Tank India. Alright, I really hope that you enjoyed this video. We had a lot of fun researching it and reaching out to the founders that we featured in this video, the ones that went on season 2 of Shark Tank India. Leave a comment down below and let me know which of the stories of these 10 companies was the most surprising to you and why. And also let me know if you want us to make more videos like this one on the aftermath of companies that go on Shark Tank India. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Backstage with Millionaires, and I will catch you in the next one.